Hey friends, it's Simon Hurley and welcome to another video. It's been a long time, guys. I've been sick for about a week and there's nothing more I wanted to do than come back and film a video. So I'm finally feeling up for it. Today we are going to do a little bit of gel press printing and using some stamps for my new Christmas release. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so I've decided to use this smaller gel press. This one is a 3x5" press. I'm going to pull it out of the packaging. And then, as you guys know, whenever I'm gel press printing, I like to pull off one side of the acetate, but I leave the back side on just so I can move it around my desk and so that it doesn't take any impressions and it's easy to kind of transfer around if I want to. Alright, and the reason I like this size is because this is an A2 size card, so I can put it off to one side, I can put it in the middle. Like there's a lot of different ways you can put it rather than it covering the whole background, which I really like. I think it adds a little bit of interest. All right, I'm gonna go in here with some of my Simon Hurley Create reinkers that we're gonna use to make today's background. It doesn't matter what kind of reinkers you use, I just like mine because they're really thick, so they don't move as quickly as other reinkers do, and they give quite beautiful results on the gel press. All right, we're doing kind of a weird mix of colors. I'm starting off with a little bit of Tropical Tango, and with my reinkers, you don't need to add a ton. A little tiny bit, like that's just a tiny little bit of the reinker and it goes a really long way. And you get like super saturated colors because of how intense these are coming right out of the bottle from here. So that's a little bit of Clear Skies. Then we're bringing in a little bit of pink with Prom Queen. And then last but not least, I'll use just a tiny bit of Crown Me and start brayering it around. And it doesn't look like much at first, trust me guys. I know that this doesn't look like a ton, but we've brayered it down. And then we can almost use it as like a stamp. You want to go pretty quickly, and I'll bring it onto my surface here and stamp that down. Look how cool it is when it touches that cardstock then. It gives just such a fun texturized effect. So then we'll lift it off, and it transferred that reinker so beautifully to create this super cool looking background. I love how those colors actually mix together. They're stunning. One thing I forgot to mention is that you can also go in with a little bit of Versamark ink. This is kind of a clear glycerin ink pad, but it's really thick. And this is going to kind of help your reinkers to not move right away when you're brayering them out. So I'm gonna go in with the exact same colors. We'll start off with a little bit of Tropical Tango. Then we'll move into Clear Skies. I like how these colors look together, so I'm gonna do one more background with them. And again, when you're adding these, a tiny bit goes a long way of each color. All right, this time I'm gonna go in with a bigger brayer, and I'm just going to go all the way across the surface and go a little bit up and down, as this is gonna kind of help the colors mix and blend together. And you guys can see, it's not moving and separating as fast as it did before. We can bring in our stark white cardstock panel and stamp that down. And you get a little bit of a smoother result because, like I said, that glycerin from the Versamark ink pad will kind of help the reinkers not move around as quickly. So then we can peel this right off and look at that beautiful background that we created. So there's the difference when you add the Versamark and when you don't, with how they separate and the different texture and effects they get. I like both of them, so you can just kind of play around with what you want. All right, I'm just gonna brayer the excess off. This is just anything left over on my brayer. We'll take the funky Argyle background stamp and stamp it in for a little bit of texture and then press that down. And look at that cool texture you get just from that background stamp. I think that's awesome. Like pressing your stamps, pressing your stencils, and you can get something cool like this. All right, I like this background quite a bit, and I'm gonna be using these solid images from the Oh Dear stamp set. And these aren't meant to fill in these images, they're actually meant to be used as silhouettes, and I'll show you right now. All right, so I'm using really dark black pigment ink for this because I want them to be super solid. So I'm gonna start off with the first deer, and the way that I would use these is just by stamping them down in black ink like this on top of a really colorful background to give almost this silhouette look, which I've really been obsessed with lately. So again, load the other one up with pigment ink. They actually have two. so you can face each other like that. And stamp that down. Right, isn't that adorable? And then we can go in with our larger tree images, and if we want them to be more in the background, you can stamp it off once, and then stamp it like behind the deer with the leftover stamped off ink. So it's gonna give you kind of this cool, shadowy background image, which I think is awesome. I'll do the same thing with the smaller tree, stamp it off, and then do this cool background image. There's also some little snowflakes in the set, so of course we can bring those in as well and stamp the little snowflake silhouettes falling down. And if you wanted, you could totally do this in a white pigment ink or emboss these too, which I know some people would love to do. All right, I'm gonna cut this out just with a little bit of a border all the way around it, and then I'm going to mount this onto an A2 size card. Now it's the end of the card, and I don't want to mess up the sentiment, so I'm going to bring out my MISTI stamping tool and place it in here. And I'm going to use the sentiment that says it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. And one really great tip with the MISTI is to place down the MISTI door, and if things line up with the grid line, you should be good to go. So here I'm going to go in with a little bit of jet black archival ink. This is my favorite for things because it dries really nice and quick. Stamp that down. And there we have our sentiment. Now this right here, these little smudges here are usually why I don't use that black pigment ink often, but I like it for the silhouette images. Now one thing you can do is go in with a mono sand eraser and just really lightly erase those mistakes off, and nobody will know that you ever smudged your cardstock because they come off nice and easily, and then they're nice and clean. So here is that finished card. That is why I created those silhouette images in this stamp set. I love how things turned out like this, and you could totally use these images in whatever ways you want to stamp patterns or create a really fun silhouette look like this. For this next card, I'm going to use the 4-inch rounded gel press, again for the same reason that I like to kind of offset it and create different effects with it on the card. And I think it makes it look interesting. All right, so again, I'll bring in just a little bit of Versamark on here so that the reinkers don't move super fast. All right, here I'm gonna use some warmer colors. So I'll go in with a little bit of Triple Berry. Then we'll move it on into some Rosy Cheeks right in the center. Just a little bit. And then last but not least, a little bit of Slippery When Wet. I love these colors together. I've used them in the past, and I like the warms. So then again, I'm going to go in with my larger brayer. You can bring this in and brayer these couple colors out. And again, move kind of up and down just a tiny bit to make sure the colors kind of blend and mingle. And then I'll go in with the Festive Florals background stamp. We'll bring that in and just give a little bit of pressure all the way around to impress it into the background and kind of give it a little bit of a wiggle as well. We'll lift that off of the surface, and then we can stamp this right down onto one of our backgrounds. And when we peel that off, we get that really awesome circle background with some beautiful colors, but you also get that bit of texture in there, which is super cool. And because it's Reinkers and it moves, it's not super defined, but I liked that it's still in that background. And then of course, if we go to that stamp too, we just mist it down a little bit. We can go in and capture the leftover ink that we have on here. So there we have that beautiful reverse background. I almost like this one better. This is beautiful with the different ink colors on there. All right, then I'm gonna take this Festive Florals background stamp, and the one thing I really like about it is you can peel things out. So there's several images to peel out of here. I'm gonna grab this poinsettia image and then stamp it down. And I love these red rubber stamps because they stamp beautifully. And I'm gonna grab a little bit of my clear embossing powder quickly before it dries so that we can heat set this until it's clear and shiny. This really was gonna be about like leaving it black and white because the background is so colorful, but honestly, I just can't help myself from going in here and just adding just a little tiny bit of color using the same color we went on the background with a little bit of Rosy Cheeks. Then we'll go in with just the tiniest bit of Psych on those leaves and literally just tap it to get this little bit of color onto there. Am I crazy? Like, the fact that this was gonna be no color and it ended up looking like this, I went a little overboard, but I kind of like how it looks. So I'm gonna go in and fussy cut it out with my Fiskars Spring Assist scissors. And you guys know by now, I really love these scissors because they spring back out at you, so your hands don't get tired, and they're also able to get into all of these small little details in here, which is amazing for when I want to fussy cut. All right, to finish this off, I'm using the Handwritten Christmas stamp set. And one thing I love to do with sentiments in these clear sets is like use the stamp sheet to figure out what sentiment I want to use. And I think I like the sending good tidings sentiment. I think that goes along really good with that image. So let me pull that off. All right, and with these sentiments, one of my biggest tips is to go around the sentiment, leaving a little bit of a white border. I'm never too particular about when it comes to sentiments. I follow them a lot more loosely than I do the images, but by cutting them out like this, instead of leaving it in a large rectangle, it's gonna cover up less of the card and show more of the beautiful design that you worked for. And there we have our finished card. I really like how this one turned out with that really colorful and beautiful gel press background and one of the festive florals on top. I think it turned out just stunning, and it shows just how much you can get out of these beautiful background prints. All right guys, I'm so excited to be back, and I hope you enjoyed today's 2 cards using the gel press and my new Christmas release. My friends over at Nancy Stamps did an episode of Stamp Wars, which I'll link down below, using some amazing gel press products as well. I missed it when I was sick, but I hope you guys will go watch it and check it out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up, comment down below which card was your favorite, and click that subscribe button down below so you never miss another card making and crafting video like this one from me. Alright guys, I'll see you very soon. Bye!